Let's talk about Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. saying this week that he hasn't he doesn't think that there's really anything going on with Iron Man 4. That really no plans right now. There hasn't really been anything happening. Maybe he's just being coy. But I guess my question to the panel. And if you answer correctly, you will get a Cadillac Eldorado.
Oh, wow.
Really get this right.
Can we do without, Iron Man 4? I feel like kind of whammy. Okay. Roth, go.
Sure. I mean, listen.
That was a really enthusiastic answer after your...
I mean, look, I wouldn't say no way. I don't feel passionately that I don't want to see another solo Iron Man movie, but I think that, and it certainly makes money, right, for the studio. That is
over
a character.
$1 billion last time.
Yeah, character that makes a lot of money for the studio. So I understand wanting to make it work, but there's so many challenges. Downey is clearly not over it to the degree that he's like, I will never. He's not angry over it, but I think that he's ready to move on. And if he wants to just show up for a shorter period of time, of work time for him in an Avengers movie, he's happy to do that. But to actually wrangle him for another full length Iron Man solo movie would probably be a real big challenge at this point.
And also, Chris, I'll direct this to you. I mean, if there was an Iron Man 4, I mean, what kind of story are you going to do with him? You have to bring back then Gwyneth Paltrow and kind of deal with the Pepper Potts storyline. You'd have to somehow, I guess, address what's going on with Mandarin and the sort of the way the spinoff film kind of love it. I feel like there's just, you'd have to end up making another movie that would just address all the stuff that happened with the last one. You couldn't just kind of move on from it. And I felt like the third movie was basically them hang up the red and gold,
But that's going to change once Avengers happens,
once Avengers too, I mean.
I think, they've done all this fancy footwork now with Mandarin to make it so that they have options. It doesn't mean that we're going to see the real Mandarin or, the Mandarin that was in the movie is actually, all those possibilities that exist around Trevor and the Mandarin.
Which is its own movie currently in the work.
Was my favorite 60s band.
All those things are still out there, but to your point,
that would be a fun movie. But go ahead.
I actually don't think they need to do an Iron Man 4. They may want to money-wise and stuff like that, but I feel like they've got their slate pretty loaded up now.
Yeah.
And Iron Man 4 doesn't seem to be in the plans. And if Downey Jr. is telling the truth, which I think he is, I think it might be too far out once we get around to it for it to be the case. And we've said before, maybe somebody else puts on the armor.
Or maybe some characters like Hulk, I mean, going forward, maybe smaller doses is better. You get your Iron Man fix. He doesn't have to work as much. You don't maybe have to pay him as much because basically he's probably only going to be there in live action 3 weeks and the rest of it is voiceover because it'll be a CG Iron Man. I mean, I'm sure, yes, these movies make $1 billion, but his contract, I believe, is structured in such a way he gets a very pretty penny out of all that.
Sure.
So, they can't.
He's bought a car or two from this.
And Marvel is very much about the bottom line, so I don't really see them, as much as some people think they need Iron Man or need Downey. I don't know. I mean, I think they want to move on and try and bank on somebody else.
Yeah, we were just saying this earlier on The Office, man, they're probably we got Guardians now. We got all those guys locked down for about $1.50.
They're going to do a bunch of stuff, right? They
bought
more.
Chris Pratt a pair of overalls.
Yeah, exactly. Downey's basically bought a car or two for the valet.
Yeah, they're talking about this.
Pratt's taking the bus.
They're talking about one sequel, and then they're going to introduce a new franchise, and then a sequel, and introduce a new franchise. And new franchise doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see all the same characters in that franchise over time. And we've said this 100 times on conversations, podcasts, whatever. The Avengers in 10 years, if it's still going as the Avengers, is not going to be the cast that we see now. It's not going to be the characters that we see now. You can already see in Avengers 2, they're bringing in characters to replace other characters. I was just thinking about this the other day, though. I do think that sooner rather than later, we're going to get a Black Widow movie. I know this is kind of off topic from Iron Man, but I think that's another one that's going to be ripe for striking now rather than later.
Yeah.
Because I think that character's got a lot of popularity now. And
and she proved that she can open a weekend.
And that was my other point,
Lucy.
is that Lucy proved now, like, oh, you can have this badass, female protagonist, and that
against
can open a movie.
The Rock.
Against The Rock.
In Hercules, and she opened she won that
Black
weekend.
Widow 1, Black Adam 0.
I mean, it's, like we talked
Sick
about
burn.
that earlier, like there were probably a lot of factors that went into that. Nonetheless, she won the weekend with a really weird Luc Besson action movie.
So, I mean, to answer the question I posed, for me to answer it, I think we can do without Iron Man 4 because I feel like that character, he's awesome. We all love him. We love Downey in that role. But I'd be perfectly happy with him just popping up as sort of like the sort of the Professor X of the Avengers. I know I'm just making a comparison, but have him kind of smaller doses. I think it works better that way, and it's like I just feel like Iron Man will only. Unless you're going to ultimately take him to that dark place he went to in the comics, I feel like there's only so much more you can do with the sort of the glib. I'm thinking of myself. I'm thinking of others. I'm thinking of myself. I'm like, okay, I'm getting a little whiplash here from this. Like
they wrapped his personal arc. I think that's what we're trying to say. Is like,
I mean, they took the thing out of his chest.
He has an all enclosed story, and like you said, if you bring more movies into the mix, you're gonna have to address some of the things that were left hanging. And maybe they don't want to do that, or maybe they will do that in Avengers 2. Who knows?
I think that there's a couple of those things that they left hanging in Iron Man 3 that are going to have to get addressed in Avengers. Otherwise, I mean, they just have to, and they will. Yeah. They must. Otherwise, why is he out there fighting?
Yeah,
exactly. Right. Like,
yeah, for sure.
When he said, "I'm done."
Oh, but I will say, if they bring Iron Man 4 out, they do it. I want to see Demon in the Bottle. If they do it, they should do that.
But I feel like what they did with Iron Man, they started him there. Not really, but they started him.
They definitely put the drink in his hand.
No, that's true. That's true.
Like I feel like they started him as if he was about to go to Demon in a Bottle, and then this life. You know what I mean?
I think it was because you definitely saw that with the Favreau ones of like he had his whole drunk scene in Iron Man 2.
Yeah,
I feel like it was Downey's charm and the way the audience responded to him. People didn't want to see him go to that dark place.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's any sort of like subconsciously like knowing that Downey had been there in real life and now he's back and people love him, like not wanting to see that revisited. If there isn't some little kernel way in the back of your head of like, I want to remember him as how he is, like this nice, happy-go-lucky guy, but I think they
send him there as if Pepper got killed.
You've changed my mind.
Yeah, I just feel like tonally, the way you've sold Iron Man now, if you suddenly took it to this very dark place, and he's been to a few dark places in the movies, he has to at some point, because it's a Marvel movie, he's going to end up back being his usual wise-ass self again at some point.
Yeah.
So that's why I think we can do without Iron Man 4.